A billionaire father in disguise, searching for love for his triplets. Then she returned. Ethan Hale, the elusive billionaire known in the business world as a genius of impossible calm, stared at his own reflection with something close to disgust. The mirror showed a man in a tailored suit, clean shoes, and an expression people bowed to, yet none of it felt like him anymore. His three children, the only ones who mattered now, slept in the next room. Triplets, Ariel, Ashton, and Aiden, three beating hearts that had softened a man the world believed was made of steel. But beneath his wealth was a hollow ache, the absence of a mother's love in their lives, a truth he had carried alone ever since the day she disappeared. Ethan was tired of raising them surrounded by people who worshipped his money, but not his humanity. Every nanny, every candidate, every woman he dated after the heartbreak saw the children as stepping stones to his fortune. None loved them for who they were. None loved him without calculation. So he made the decision no advisor, shareholder, or friend would ever understand. He would live poor, not forever, just long enough to discover the kind of people who did not bow to his last name. He wanted someone who would look at his children and see wonder, not inheritance, someone who would understand them, guide them, and maybe, just maybe, fill the void their mother had left behind. He disguised himself carefully. Old jeans, faded shirts from years ago, scuffed boots he once used during charity mission, clothes that belonged to a version of him the world had forgotten. He trimmed his hair unevenly, shaved just enough to look unkempt, and wore a cap that shadowed his features. When he emerged from the walk-in closet, even his assistant paused in confusion, but one person recognized him immediately, the triplets' real mother, Marisa. She stood by the doorway, arm crossed, eyes tired but soft, the same eyes he'd fallen in love with before life tore them apart. She was the only person who had always seen through him, the only one who'd never cared for his fortune, and the only one who knew the truth behind why she had vanished from their lives, a truth Ethan had sworn to keep hidden, to protect her. Now she was back, not as his lover, not as his wife, but as the only help he trusted in this mission. "You don't have to go this far," Marisa whispered. "They're just children. They need stability, not a social experiment." Ethan shook his head. "They need love, real love, someone who won't treat them like trophies. I need to experience the world the way ordinary people do, so I can find someone who sees them the way you do." Her eyes softened, pain flickering in them. "And what if you get hurt?" He looked toward the triplets' room. "Then I'll heal, but they deserve better than this golden cage." Marisa sighed, moving closer, adjusting the collar of his worn-out shirt. "I'll help you," she said quietly, just like before. And so, the billionaire vanished, and the poor single father stepped out into the world. Ethan had lived in penthouses with marble floors and elevators that whispered. Now he stood in front of a crooked little house on Maple Street, the kind where the windows rattled when the wind blew and the paint peeled like old memories. It was perfect. Aiden clung to his hand, blinking around curiously. Ariel twirled in front of the gate like she already owned the place. Ashton inspected the broken mailbox with the seriousness of a detective. "These are interesting choices," Marisa murmured beside him as she carried a box of the children's clothes. "Are you sure you want to raise billionaires' children in a neighborhood where the power goes off twice a week?" Ethan smiled. "Exactly twice, predictable enough." He watched the triplets explore. Here, no one would whisper about the Hale fortune. No reporter would document their school lunches. No nanny would remind them of their father's empire. Here, they could simply be children. A neighbor walked by, a woman with flour-dusted hands carrying a tray of something warm. New family, she asked brightly. Ethan nodded, lowering his voice and softening his posture just as Marissa had coached him. Yeah, just moved. Not much, but it's home. Welcome to Maple Street. I'm Mrs. Penwick. These muffins are for you. Ariel reached up fast. Thank you, she chirped, smiling so brightly. The woman beamed back at her. Mrs. Penwick left without glancing twice at Ethan. No recognition, no suspicion, just kindness. It was the first moment of relief he'd felt in years. Inside, the house was bare, second-hand furniture, uneven wooden floors, mismatched curtains Marissa found at a thrift shop. Ethan let out a long breath. We really did this, he whispered. Marissa placed the last box down and looked around with a peculiar expression, half nostalgia, half longing. Feels like our early days, she said softly, before everything got complicated. He swallowed. I remember. Silence stretched between them. There were 1,000 things he wanted to say, but this wasn't about them. It was about the children and about finding someone worthy. Later that evening, as the triplets napped on the floor in a heap of blankets, Ethan and Marissa sat at the kitchen table. It wobbled every time he moved. So, she said, tapping a pencil against a notebook, let's talk about the plan. Ethan leaned back. I'll take odd jobs. Nothing too flashy. The kids will start at the local school next week. You'll come by when you can, but not too often. We can't draw attention. And the search? She added. He exhaled slowly. I'm not looking for perfection, just sincerity. Someone who doesn't flinch at responsibility. Someone who loves them with the kind of love money can't inspire. Marissa closed the notebook. Her voice softened. You still believe that kind of love exists? He looked toward the sleeping triplets, his world bundled in tiny bodies. I have to. And in the quiet, Marissa's eyes held the truth. She didn't speak. It had once existed between them. The next morning, Maple Street hummed with life. Rooster crowed somewhere behind the houses. Children shouted as they rushed to school, and old bicycles rattled past with baskets full of vegetables. Ethan stepped outside, wearing the worn jacket Marissa had chosen for him. It smelled faintly of dust and peppermint oil, an oddly comforting combination. The triplets followed him out in mismatched clothes Ariel had proudly picked for everyone. Aidan's shirt was backwards, Ashton wore two different socks, and Ariel had tied ribbons on her shoes because poor doesn't mean plain. He couldn't argue with that. As they headed toward the bus stop, Ethan noticed a young woman sitting alone on the bench. She looked exhausted, her shoulders slumped, her uniform wrinkled, her face pale with the kind of weariness only life's disappointments could mold. A small lunchbox sat beside her, dented and patched with stickers. Ariel tugged on his jacket. Daddy, she looks sad. Maybe she's just tired, he whispered. But Ariel marched forward anyway. The woman looked up as Ariel approached. Her eyes were soft brown, framed by long lashes, but heavy with something Ethan couldn't name. Sadness, perhaps, or loss. Hi, Ariel said with her natural confidence. Do you want a muffin? Our neighbor gave us some. The woman blinked in surprise. Oh, thank you. She accepted it gently, as though afraid it might crumble in her hands. That's very kind, Ashton piped up. We're new here. This is our first time taking the bus. The woman smiled faintly. You'll get used to it. Maple Street kids always do. Ethan approached, nodding politely. Morning. Her gaze flicked to him, and there was no flicker of recognition, no hint of greed, no expectation. Just simple acknowledgement. Morning, she replied. Your kids are lovely. Thank you, he said. I'm Ethan. Lila, she introduced quietly. I work at the community center down the road, kids department. Aidan tilted his head. Do you like kids? Lila hesitated, then nodded. Very much. They're the only good thing left in my life some days. Something about the honesty behind our words made Ethan pay closer attention. Not the romantic kind, he wasn't here for himself, but the sincerity that mattered. The bus arrived with a groan, its brakes squealing. Lila stood and motioned for the children to board first. Inside, she sat across from them, her eyes drifting toward the window as though lost in memories. Ariel leaned toward Ethan. Daddy, she feels like warm rain. Ethan hid a smile. Ariel had always described people in impossible metaphors, but she was rarely wrong. Halfway through the ride, the bus hit a bump and Aiden nearly toppled. Lila reached out quickly, steadying him with gentle hands. You okay, sweetheart? Aiden nodded shyly, and Ethan saw it then, a natural, instinctive kindness, not performed, not calculated, genuine. When the bus stopped near the school, Lila stood to leave. Nice meeting you, she said softly. Ariel waved wildly. See you again. Lila's smile lingered, even after she walked away, and Ethan found himself wondering, had the search already begun, or had fate simply delivered the first clue? Maple Street settled into a rhythm Ethan found strangely soothing. Days passed with the scent of frying plantains drifting from neighbors' windows, children chasing each other across dusty yards, and mothers chatting loudly over fences. Life was simpler here, raw, imperfect, and undeniably real. But the simplicity did not silence the ghosts of Ethan's past, especially the one named Marisa. She visited the small house often, always pretending to drop off food or books for the triplets or advice he didn't ask for. But Ethan knew the truth. She wanted to stay close to the children she had given up, even if the world believed she had abandoned them. On a warm Saturday morning, she arrived early, wearing jeans and a loose shirt, her hair tied up carelessly. She looked normal, human, not like the woman who once stood beside him at charity galas under chandeliers that cost more than this whole neighborhood. The triplets ran to her instantly, Arya with open arms, Aiden with quiet excitement, Ashton pretending he wasn't thrilled, even as he clung to her hand. Mommy, oh, I mean, Miss Risa. Ariel corrected herself quickly. Marisa's smile faltered for just a moment before she hugged them all tightly. Ethan watched from the doorway, his chest tightening. They didn't know the truth, not yet, and maybe that was for the best. For now, when the kids ran off to the backyard, Ethan led Marisa inside. You shouldn't come too often, he said gently. Someone might recognize you. No one here reads business magazines, she muttered, glancing around the tiny kitchen. They barely read utility bills. He tried not to laugh. Still, we need to be careful. Her eyes softened. How are the kids adjusting? Better than me, Ethan admitted. She smirked. I can't tell. You look humbled. Humbled, he repeated. Humbled broke. Her teasing turned serious, but happier. He didn't deny it. As they set up breakfast, Ethan told her about Lila, the woman from the bus stop. Marisa paused mid-slice of bread. Lila, just someone the kids met, he explained quickly. Kind, works at the community center, and you're considering her. For the kids, Ethan clarified. Only for them. Marisa nodded slowly. What about you? He froze. She didn't push it. Instead, she changed the topic. Be careful. Good people can still carry heavy pasts. The warning lodged somewhere deep in his mind. Later that afternoon, Ethan took the triplets to the playground. The swings were rusty, the sand uneven, but the children laughed like they'd discovered paradise. And then he saw her, Lila. She was kneeling beside a crying toddler, wiping his tears and fixing his scraped knee with a gentle steadiness that made Ethan pause. When she looked up and noticed him, a smile returned, soft, quiet, Natural. You again, she said. Seems like it, he replied. Arya ran to her instantly, hugging her legs as though they were old friends. Miss Lila, come play with us. Lila laughed. I have work, sweetheart. Just 5 minutes, Ariel begged. Lila hesitated, then gave in. As Ethan watched her join the children, something stirred in him. Hope, maybe, but behind that hope, Marissa's warning echoed quietly. Good people can still carry heavy past, and Lila's eyes, warm as they were, held shadows he could no longer ignore. The sun dipped low over Maple Street, casting long orange shadows across the playground. Children drifted home one by one, the scent of evening meals rising in the wind. But Ethan remained on the old bench, watching Lila and the triplets as if the scene were a window into a life he had once wanted and lost. Lila pushed the swing gently, Ariel laughing with her head thrown back. Aidan built a crooked sand castle at her feet, while Ashton hovered close, observing her with quiet suspicion. Ashton trusted slowly, but once he did, his loyalty was unshakable. Ethan admired that about him. Eventually, Lila sat beside Ethan while the triplets played a short distance away. She looked tired again, the same heaviness he'd noticed the first day at the bus stop. You always look like the world is sitting on your shoulders, Ethan said softly. Lila exhaled, eyes fixed on the children. That's obvious? To me, yes. A small smile tugged her lips. You're perceptive. Parenthood does that, he said. You learn to read storms before they hit. Lila's smile faded. Not all storms can be read. He waited, sensing she was holding something back, something important. She continued, I come here to breathe. The community center is wonderful, but hard. Most of the kids have stories that don't end with neat little bows. Her voice thickened. Some of them leave, some don't come back. Ethan studied her. And you? She shrugged. I'm just trying to stay afloat. Before he could press further, Ariel ran over with her dramatic flair. Daddy, Ashton said Lila should be our new mommy. Ethan froze. Lila's face turned crimson. Ariel, no, no, sweetie, that's not. Ariel huffed. I'm just saying what Ashton said. Ashton, mortified, kicked the sand. She's nice, he mumbled defensively. Lila laughed awkwardly. Kids say the wildest things, but Ethan wasn't laughing. His heart thudded painfully, not because the idea scared him, but because of how natural it felt, too natural. He steered the conversation away quickly. All right, time to go home, team. The triplets groaned but obeyed. Lila gathered her bag, preparing to leave. Ethan, she said quietly, I didn't mean to complicate anything. You didn't, he replied, but his voice was too soft and her eyes caught the truth. She gave him a nod, one that held more distance than before, then walked away. As the children tugged him toward the house, Ethan kept glancing back. Lila walked with that tired slump again, disappearing around the corner like a shadow, retreating from the light. At home, Marissa was waiting on the porch. Her arms were crossed, her expression unreadable. How was the playground? She asked. Ethan hesitated. Good. Marissa studied his face. You met her again, didn't you? Marissa, I told you to be careful. She cut in. You barely know this woman. She's kind. The kids love her. And her past? Marissa asked sharply. You haven't asked. Because everyone deserves privacy. Not when your children are involved. Silence grew thick between them. Finally, Marissa stepped closer, her voice trembling just slightly. Ethan, you're looking for someone to love them, but don't forget, love can hide wounds deeper than you see. He swallowed hard, because behind Marissa's warning was something else entirely. A fear, a memory, a truth she was still too afraid to reveal. The following Monday, Rain fell in thin silver sheets over Maple Street, tapping on rooftops like nervous fingers. Ethan woke to the sound of it and the soft breathing of the triplets tangled in blankets beside him. They had all fallen asleep in the living room the night before. Simpler life, simpler problems, except the ones he carried in his chest. By mid-morning, the rain eased, leaving the streets damp and smelling of wet earth. Ethan walked the triplets to school, then headed towards the community center. Something had been gnawing at him ever since the playground. Lila's tired eyes, a quick retreat, a apology that felt heavier than her words. He needed answers, if only to protect his children. The community center buzzed with activity, volunteers unloading boxes, kids tugging on paint-stained aprons, a generator humming in the back. Ethan spotted Lila kneeling beside a little girl with braids, tying her shoelaces with gentle care. She saw him before he reached her. Ethan, she rose slowly. Did something happen? Are the children okay? They are fine. He hesitated. Can we talk? Lila led him to a quiet hallway, lined with faded posters, her posture already braced, as though expecting trouble. What's wrong? She asked. It's not wrong, Ethan said carefully. I just want to understand you. Lila stiffened. Understand me. You're good with the kid, kind, but you seem like you're carrying something heavy. He paused. I'm not asking for anything personal you don't want to share. I just need to know if you're okay. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with something like panic. She turned away, her hands trembling slightly. Ethan, I'm not what people think. I'm not someone who deserves. Stop. His voice was firm but gentle. No one hands kindness. It's given. Lila shook her head. It's not that. It's. A door opened down the hall. A stern looking woman, perhaps a supervisor, stepped out. Lila, office, now. Lila flinched. Ethan's brows knitted. Is she in trouble? The supervisor eyed him coldly. This doesn't concern you. Actually, Ethan said calmly, if it concerns Lila, it does. The woman hesitated, then sighed. Her shifts have been cut again. Some parents complained. Ethan frowned. Complained? About what? The woman's voice softened reluctantly. About her past. They googled her name. Lila's shoulders collapsed. Ethan turned to her, confusion tightening in his chest. Lila, what past? Her lips parted, trembling. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Before she could speak another word, a child cried out in the next room. Lila instinctively turned toward the sound, her first response always protection. Go, Ethan urged softly. She hurried away. Ethan stayed behind, heart pounding with unanswered questions. What could she possibly have done that frightened people? What had broken her, but not her kindness? As he stepped into the rain again, he found Marissa waiting under an umbrella, face tense. You went to see her, she said. Not a question. I needed the truth, Ethan replied. And did you get it? No, he whispered. But I will. Marissa's voice lowered. Ethan, whatever her secret is not something small. He looked toward the school where the triplets laughed freely inside. Neither is my determination to find out. The storm returned that night, heavier than before. Thunder crawled across the sky, wind rattled the windows, and lightning flashed bright enough to illuminate the entire living room. The triplets huddled together under blankets, and Ethan paced near the doorway, unable to quiet the storm inside him. Lila had a past serious enough to get parents worried, serious enough to make her flinch at questions, serious enough that she believed she didn't deserve kindness. But what kind of past could belong to a woman who comforted crying children like she was born to love them? Marissa arrived late, soaked to the bone. Ethan grabbed a towel and wrapped it around her shoulders. She didn't meet his eyes. You talked to someone, she said quietly. I talked to the supervisor, Ethan replied, and she told you. Only that parents complained after Googling Lila's name. Marissa swallowed hard, too hard. Ethan's breath caught. Marissa, will you know something? She's not who you think, Marissa said, voice trembling. Ethan, please, you need to stay away from her. He shook his head. Tell me why. Before she could answer, a soft knock echoed through the storm. Ethan froze. Marissa stiffened. The knock came again, fragile, desperate. He opened the door. Lila stood on the porch, her clothes soaked, hair clinging to her cheeks, knees red-rimmed and swollen. She looked like she had walked through the storm with nothing but heartbreak to guide her. Aiden saw me through the window, she whispered. He waved. I didn't want to walk away. Aiden ran toward her before Ethan could stop him, hugging her legs tightly. Lila knelt and hugged him back. Then she looked up at Ethan, fear trembling in her expression. I didn't want you to hear my story from someone else. Ethan's voice softened. Come inside. Marissa stepped back, jaw clenched, but said nothing. They sat around the small kitchen table as the storm roared outside. Lila's hand shook as she held the warm mug Ethan offered her. She didn't drink. I wasn't always here, she began, voice barely audible. 3 years ago, my little sister was taken from me. She was 8, sweet, stubborn, and brave. I was her only guardian. Ariel touched her hand gently. What happened? Lila's breath hitched. She died, but the world blamed me. The room fell silent. They said I was negligent, that I wasn't responsible enough. The paper twisted everything. Headlines called me unfit. The courts took everything I had left. She wiped her tears with a trembling hand. I moved here because no one knew me, because I could start over. But every time someone Googles my name, my sister's death becomes a weapon again. Ethan felt something inside him break, not for her part, but for the unbearable loneliness in her voice. Marissa finally spoke. Lila, I'm so sorry. Lila shook her head. You don't have to forgive me. I just needed you to know who I am before the children grow attached. Ariel climbed onto her lap without hesitation. We already are, she said. Lila broke down sobbing, and Ethan made a decision without even realizing it. He reached for her hand. You're not alone anymore. Marissa watched the scene, her face trapped between relief and a new, deeper ache Ethan couldn't read. But tomorrow he would. Tomorrow the storm wouldn't be the only truth that needed to break open. The morning after the storm felt strangely calm, as if the sky itself was holding its breath. Lila slept, coiled on the couch, the triplets scattered around her like tiny protectors. Ethan watched them from the doorway, Arya clutching Lila's arm, Aiden draped over her like a blanket, Ashton sleeping stiffly, but close enough to reveal the attachment he would never admit. Something inside Ethan softened and strengthened at the same time. He stepped outside to find Marissa on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, even though the air had already warmed. Her hairs were puffy, as though she hadn't slept. Are you okay? Ethan asked. I should be, Marissa replied, but I'm not. He waited. She turned toward him, voice cracking. You think Lila's secret was the only one you needed to hear? Ethan stiffened. Marissa, what are you talking about? Her eyes filled with a pain he had not seen in years. You think I left because I didn't love you or the kids? She shook her head slowly. I left to save them. Ethan's breath stalled. Save them? From what? From my family. He blinked. Your family? My father, she whispered. You know how powerful he is. You know what he does to control what's his. When he found out I was pregnant with triplets, your children, he tried to force me to give them up. Said they were a weakness. Said your name would ruin us both. Ethan's stomach clenched. I refused, and he threatened to destroy you. Your business, your reputation, everything. He wouldn't stop unless I disappeared. So I signed the papers. I let the world think I abandoned you." Her voice cracked. "I hated myself every day, but I thought I was protecting you." Ethan staggered back, breath shallow. "Marisa, sir, why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to," she said through tears. "But he watched me. Every call, every message. I couldn't risk him going after the kids." Silence stretched, full of regret, truth, and years lost. Ethan finally spoke. "You protected us, but you broke with us too." "I know." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "And I will carry that forever." Before he could respond, a soft voice came from behind them. "Marisa?" Lila stood in the doorway, the triplets drowsily trailing behind her. The morning light framed her like a fragile hope. Marisa wiped her tears quickly. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." Lila stepped closer. "You loved them enough to leave?" "Yes," Marisa whispered. Lila's lips trembled. "Then you're stronger than anyone I know." The two women looked at each other, one carrying guilt, the other tragedy. Ethan realized then that these were the only two people who understood what it meant to lose everything and still love deeply. Ariel tugged on Ethan's shirt. "Daddy, are we okay now?" Ethan knelt and kissed her forehead. "We will be." He turned toward both women. "No more secrets, not from each other, not from the kids." Marisa nodded slowly. Lila wiped her eyes. The triplets held hands, three small anchors pulling the adults closer. Ethan looked at them all and felt something he had long forgotten. A beginning, not perfect, not simple, but a real. The end. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful stories. Comment your thoughts below. Thank you.